I have all commissioners are present, and I'd like to call on Chief LeBlanc to give the invocation followed by the pledge. I'm sorry, is he muted?
Green. Now you good. You got me now?
Thank you. Yes, sir.
All right, I'll start over. If you would, bow your heads, please. Heavenly Father, please pray for this Drainage Commission to continue to make the decisions that need to be made for the safety of our residents. I'd like you to please pray for the Duhan family and the Duncan family who lost their lives again this week in the Santa Marta community. And I would like to pray for our law enforcement and our firefighters in the community and all of our public servants in the community. In God's name we pray, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
The flag
of the United
of the United States of America and to the republic
to the republic, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, Chief. With that, we're gonna move on. I'm gonna let you know with the public comment period. Before we go into that, anyone wishing to call in, you can call 225-621-8636. Enter the participating code of 939-496. Or you can email any comments to apgov.us. And with that, we're gonna go back up to Miss Liz, and she's gonna read the entire agenda. You got it, Miss Liz?
Yes, sir. Amendment number 5 to master contract between HNTB Corporation and East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District 1 for task order number 3 in the amount of $2,670,850 for a floodplain management plan with an original contract amount of $400,000 dated September 26, 2017. The total contract amount not to exceed $3,070,850, and authorizing Parish President Clint Quintmall to sign any and all contract documents pertaining to said contract. Approval to advertise for bids for the Fish Bayou Flood Control Structure, project number EAD 19-002. Approval of maintenance request for the Shadows at Manchac subdivision, drainage servitude within the retention pond. Discussion of safety guard railings along drainage canals along major highways.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Liz. With that, we'll go into the comment period, and we'll wait for the comments to come back. With that being said, I'm going to let the parish president, if he has any reporting that he needs at this time, to report.
Thank you, Chairman. I know Ron has his report. We'll go ahead and let Ron get that report out of the way.
Sure.
All right, Chairman, thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Can you guys hear all right? Okay, so first off, we'd like to bring attention to one of our employees, Paul Hutchinson. He retired last week and been great asset to the parish. He was the actual operator that you've seen in some of the presentations that Parish President had made on the big shredder machine. He was a great asset to our department. And one thing he did is a great job at was training someone underneath him to fill in his shoes and carry on the duties of that machinery. So kudos to Paul and best of luck to him, and thanks for his service. Across the board at Public Works and Drainage, we've been focusing on aggressively moving forward with professional development and bringing in training programs to help mainly our supervision at this time, improve on their skills. We had the first course on the 19th of January, and it focused on team communication and effectiveness. It was a great session, a lot of participation, and great information at the end of it from all of the people that attended. They were very appreciative and very much so willing to participate. The second course will be on conflict resolution. Matter of fact, Thursday, February 11th this week, we'll be having a second session, and the third session will be in March. It will be essential skills for new managers. So we're really investing in this professional development lane. And what I'd like to do at the end of this is have a little bit of a survey to the employees that participated to see how we can continually improve on the professional development lane and then grow it even further into the year 2021. Going down on the operation end level, we do have a course set up in February the 18th. Mr. Big, which is our vegetation consultant, he'll come in and we're going to have the entire vegetation group go into the gym at Lamar Dixon for social distancing, but we will have a very much so division-oriented training session with that group that will focus them in preparation for the 2021 vegetation season on the safety of applying herbicides and the things they need to know, general knowledge about that application process, and also some equipment safety and things to be aware of moving into the 2021 vegetation season. So we're very excited to kick all of those programs off and get our staff ready to really perform and deliver for you guys this year. Pumping station maintenance is moving on great. The maintenance contract that was implemented, we're seeing the benefits now of the investment on that. And what I mean by that is it took a lot of time to really establish what we call baselines on our pumps. Mainly at Marvin Bro, you have a lot of components that are mechanically driven there. The 7 pumps have all been balanced and aligned, and all of those things have checked out. So all 7 pumps had that baseline established. The next step is having vibration analysis performed on all of them, and they'll be having that baseline to compare that data to see if there's any trends on any further maintenance needed there. A lot of safety things have been built out there that we've noticed over the past year sort of deteriorate. Some safety gates out by the screen operations at both Marvin Bro and Henderson pumping station. Sorrento pump station, we're moving forward with looking at the animation of the station to where we would be able to possibly control it with the crews at Marvin Bro if needed. You never know what conditions may come up when we're in a pumping event or shortness of staff. We would like to have that possibility of running that station remotely, and we're well on the way to getting that implemented. Another thing at Sorrento that in the last couple of weeks has kicked off is the HMGP grant that we were credited for the expansion of Sorrento and adding capacity to the pumping station. That contract has been noticed to proceed. We had a kickoff meeting last week, went really well, and they're moving forward with the design phase of the addition of pumps at Sorrento, so that they're actually on site this week doing the geo testing and the in the field survey work. So that project is kicked off. Getting more into the in the field type work, I won't go too far into it. It's a big list of where we're working at, and anything you guys have concerns with, contact us individually. We'll go into those details within your districts. But one big item that came up was the drainage concerns in Geismar on 73 near Entergy and Waste Pro area. That contractor has mobilized and installed the pipes and reopened the drainage that was a concern there. and they're moving forward, digging out the drainage ditch that is needed according to the design. And in-house, we were successful in obtaining the servitudes needed downstream of that area. So once this contractor gets his execution done on his work, we'll follow that up and do the maintenance downstream and tile that in, and that whole area will see maintenance improvements all the way back up to Highway 73. So we're very excited to finally get that accomplished, and we look forward to moving forward with that. With that, that pretty much concludes what I wanted to touch on tonight. If you guys have any questions or concerns, I'd be glad to answer them.
But Mr. Turner, you had something? I've seen you waving.
Yes, I just want to tell Ryan, good job on getting that area fixed at 73. I know Ryan and John and myself rode out there. I want to say that was last year when it flooded, to see what exactly was going on. And I just want to thank him for getting on it very quickly and getting it handled and taken care of. And thank President Quintmore as well with it, because, when I contacted him, he had John and Ryan to come out there the next morning, and we went out there and drove and seen exactly what the problem was.
Thank you.
Mr. President, you want to follow up?
Yeah, yeah, Travis, that was one of the things. It was great to see some photos of actual construction going on at that site. So we're very pleased to see that for those residents in there. I know that that was a situation that was difficult for those residents in that area, and so we were glad to see that we were actually putting dirt on the project and something was being done to improve drainage in that area. Absolutely. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, appreciate it. Anyone having any questions for the drainage report from Mr. Ron? If none, we'll go back to Ms. Liz. Did we have any callers on any agenda items?
He's got
Him right now.
to go check next door. We'll be right back with you.
Okay.
No calls. No.
No calls, Tim.
Okay.
No calls.
All right. Thank y'all. We'll, again, if you have any questions, anything, contact Ron. Let us know if y'all need anything in the district. With that, we're going to move on to number 4, the acceptance of the minutes for January 11th.
Motion to approve.
John,
First step.
second by Mr. Dow. Number 5, under the chairman's report, I'm going to give to Vice Chair, Mr. Chase.
Thank you, Chair. Fellow commissioners, I know last Thursday I sent everyone an email with a video link, and it's a very detailed, very impressive video concerning Harris County in Texas, and a very impressive flood control system that they have over there. Well, last week I reached out to I'm sorry, I got his name right here, Mr. Jeff Lidner. He is the hydraulic operations manager for Harris County. He graciously and very efficiently emailed me back today, and he's more than happy to welcome our delegation there and to educate and show us their state-of-the-art system, things they moved. As we all know, Houston's the 3rd largest city in the nation, and they struggle with a lot of the same flooding issues that we do. And over the last few years, they've implemented this new system, and it's just phenomenal. The water gauges they work, and it's real life data. They have a website that's open to the public. The public can type in their address, and they can look at the rain gauges amongst them, see the inundation coming, see what canals are about to overtop, what kind of danger they may or may not be in. Mr. Jeff said that he's happy, and this is just some of the topics he would like to cover with us, is a brief history of their warning system, their gauge components, the installation and protocols, the system operation and maintenance, the internal data software, the website, cost, manpower, vendors, and he would like to take us on field trips to these sites to where we can see all of this in real life and how it works and everything. And this kind of piggybacks on prior things that we've heard from Ms. Christelle Slaughter with SSA. I think it would be a hell of a team building trip, not to mention educational. We could we could go for a couple of days and just fill our day with nothing but presentations from some of the smartest floodplain management people in the whole nation. And so this, and based on what could happen with our next agenda item, consolidating this right here could give Ascension Parish a chance to be, one of the most high-tech, efficient, parishes in the state, if not in the entire Southeast. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I think it would be a hell of an experience for all of us, and I'm really excited about it. I emailed everybody again today, so check our emails and all that stuff. So I just want to put that on everybody's radar. And this is something that I'd love for the commission, full council for that matter, administration. I'd love for, Ryan and Darren and all those guys to come along and let's, kind of go over there together as a single delegation and learn everything we can from these people. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. John?
Yeah, thank you, Chase. I agree with that analysis. We did a similar road trip to Metairie, to New Orleans, and looked at their SCADA system and their pumps, and they've got an elaborate system, but I don't think it can probably come close to what they have down in Houston because they have so many different canals and waterways. Very familiar with that area, and they do have some unusual flooding situations. New Orleans is basically Lake Pontchartrain and keeping the water out of the bowl, But good idea. But it also keep in mind, New Orleans, Metairie, those folks did invite us to go back anytime we want with questions. So, if we can't make the trip to Houston right away, maybe we can just plan a short trip to Metairie or have them come up and do a presentation. But excellent idea. We can only gain from someone else's good experiences. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Chase, for bringing that forward. With that, we'll move on to the drainage report. We'll go into general business number 7. That is the amendment. Number 5, the master contract between HMTB. It's Ron and Parish President Clint.
Thank you, Chair. I'll take this one for Ron. We'll go ahead and let HNTV tell us what adjustments they made and give them the opportunity to go over the contract with these, and we'll open it up for discussion if you'd like.
Sure.
Yeah, well, thank you, Parish President Quintmaw, and thank you, members of the commission. Melissa's pulling up now the scope and can highlight some of the adjustments that have been made since your last meeting. But I just wanted to say that I appreciate the opportunity again to work with you all. President Quintmaw, I appreciate the call last week from you, and thank you for reaching out and speaking to the level of cooperation we can have and will have moving forward on this. And so, again, just look forward to it, and I will allow Melissa to elaborate a little bit on some of the adjustments that have been made.
So can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right, so for the scope of work, we made a few adjustments. From our work in EBR, we realized that we could use the the newest HEC-RAS version, which is HEC-RAS 2D, as opposed to the other option that we were going with before this new version came out. Because of utilizing this new version, it's an easier process to make the models and to process the models for both the existing conditions and for evaluating projects in future conditions. So we're able to save a little bit of money by utilizing that program. The other thing I did was take out the preparation of the capital improvement program. It was requested to remove that and save that for another time or a later date. So that was taken out as well, which then overall our fee reduced down to 2.6. I don't have the exact, I'll tell you the exact amount. 2.67, 850,000. So those were essentially the two items that we were able to adjust. Now, I do want to say one more thing. In terms of data collection, We are still coordinating with the folks from the Watershed Initiative who are doing the work in Region 7. And so I'm waiting on them to get their scope of work for the surveys that they're going to be doing so that we can adjust our scope to take out the work that they're already going to be doing and then utilize that information that they'll obtain for the work here. And this is somewhat predicated on the fact of schedules and how those all work out. But based on preliminary discussions with Dewberry, who is the consultant for the Watershed Initiative in this region, we may be able to save some more money. So that's about it.
That sounds great. That sounds great, Ms. Kennedy. With that being said, Mike, would CSRS, you have anything?
No, I've been in touch with Brian on the changes. We're fine with that. Looking forward to the opportunity to get started.
Appreciate you. I know it's been a long process, and I want to thank everyone. I mean, y'all, we've been really putting some hard work into this, so I want to thank everyone for their patience. Mr. Malonson?
Yeah, Chair. First, I'd like to make a motion to approve the amended contract as is. And also just want to make a quick statement that, this is something that's going to bring us somewhere we've never really been before. This is going to be a lot of data to show exactly our deficiencies here in Ascension Parish, something that we've long needed. It's going to take all of our current, past, and present politics out of decision making. It's going to give us good information. That's what's best for our districts, our parish as a whole. And I just want to say publicly that I'm ecstatic that this council, this administration has vowed to move forward. And once we get this data, we're going to make real decisions based on data, not on gut feelings, not on pushback votes. We're going to do what's best to protect everyone. So I just want to throw that out there. I'm really excited about this, and I'm glad to be moving forward. And in 2 years, we'll start implementing and planning projects that we just couldn't have foreseen in the future. So I'm really excited about the whole thing. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Terry. Do you have any discussion? Mr. John?
Yeah, thank you, Chase, for your comments. And I'd like to just piggyback on that because when we get this data and we have it available and we try to get grant money, it's going to enhance our ability to get grant funding or matching funds from the federal government. Whereas without this plan, we may not be as successful. But with it, it's going to, certainly increase our opportunities for grant money on the federal level and the state level. Thank you.
Mr. Aaron?
Yeah, I'd like to echo that. One of the things that I've been doing some of my research on this is looking at our CRS class. And it looks like based on the FEMA website, we're number 8. And what that means is we get a 10% discount on our flood insurance. Jefferson Parish, which has people have been down to and has a very healthy flood mitigation plan, has a 25% reduction. Portland, Oregon also has a 25% reduction in theirs because they have a much better class. That's part of what we aim to do with this. In Oregon, that means $365 per insurance policy that people are saving per year. Harris County is another good example, Houston, of course, that has a very strong hazard mitigation plan, and they do a lot to reduce flooding there. I think this is a very important process that we're undertaking right now. I believe that we need to have a complete plan and get the full benefit of a drainage master plan. And by that, I mean a 20-year stormwater capital improvements plan also, because I don't believe that having a drainage master plan without an ability to fund it will do us any good. We know what has to be done in some circumstances. In other areas of the parish, we don't know what has to be done. But if we don't have a method to save or I'm sorry, to get grant money, to have a plan to go out and get it like we've done with Move Ascension, that will basically, this will be a hollow plan. Like I say, we could save money on this plan and, tell the public, hey, look, we saved money. But, I could go out and buy a fishing boat and come home and my wife would look at it and say, well, there's no outboard motor on there. I say, yeah, honey, but I saved money. You got to have from front to back, you got to have the whole thing. And to leave out task 7 of this 20-year stormwater capital improvement plan, I think is not a good idea because we have to find ways that we can go out and pay for this. I don't want to tell my constituents I saved money on this just by cutting part of the plan off. That's not a true savings. So I'm going to make a substitute motion that we certainly move forward with this plan with task order number 3 of the final floodplain management plan, but that includes task number 7, the 20-year stormwater 20-year stormwater capital improvement plan for a total cost of $2,885,896, which is an increase of $215.46.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we're in discussion. Mr. Jones.
Yes, I do want to say, I feel like we've come a long way with getting this plan so close and getting a master plan to move forward in drainage. I do want to commend President Quintmaw in getting involved in this process to see what the parish could assist in, to help us get a better price tag, I guess you could say, on this deal. And with that in mind, I'd like to expand a little bit on the savings aspect and the negotiating. I looked through this a little bit and I noticed through the change order, there's a couple other spots that I think we could find some savings, and I will, refer this to President Quintmaw, I guess, in his presentation, because I know he still has to talk about it. But in the project management, I see $319,000 in project management. And I feel like we have an administration that has volunteered to help do such a thing. And I think that they should have I'm sorry, is somebody not muted? I hear a chip bag getting ruffled up. No, not Corey? Okay, cool. But yeah, that's one thing, and I think we can have the parish involved in the project management. There's no reason for us to spend $300,000 on something whenever we have an engineering firm that's better at getting the data and analyzing it. And the second spot that I think we could save a lot of money, or at least save some money, is the floodplain management plan. Once again, I feel like we as a parish need to be more involved in that, and I feel like the administration needs to be more involved in that than HNTB is. Not saying that we won't need their help in it, and not saying that they don't also need to be involved, but I feel like for the amount of money that we're paying for that, an additional $361,000, I mean, you're looking at over $500,000 with just those 2 items. So I will just kind of put that question for President Quintmaw, but I'll put it on hold because I know he's got a part of a presentation. With that said, I know as a parish we need to move forward, and I am on board moving forward with doing this type of management plan because I know it's what gets us projects. But a savings like this could get us turning dirt and actually doing projects now for the people to see that. So thank you.
Mr. Ogeron? Ms. Terry, you had something?
Yeah, I'll
We're still in
second Aaron's. I will second Aaron's motion to add item 7 as well on the front end, and let's get this thing done in its entirety, so that a plan that we started to work on years ago will finally come to fruition with this young, dynamic team that we have today, who has helped us to push this over the starting line here. So I have a second for that, and I'll await the chair's decision.
Sure. Parish President.
Thank you, Chair. So, to handle a couple items, just general savings. When you look at the task orders, you look at 2, 3, 4, 5, those are data-driven task orders. Obviously, you know, whether we hire HNTB or another firm, those would be beneficial for us taking a look at different projects. I did want to point out, because Chase talked about how doing decisions based on, you know, the whole parish, that's not going to be the case in this contract. Now, unless the task orders are changed, these are just going to look at our major canal. It doesn't adjust or look at our laterals. It doesn't look at subdivision development and problems that exist in there. That's not going to solve that problem. And that is the bulk of our problems here in Ascension Parish. So I just wanted to point out that this is not going to solve that. That has to be task order driven to ensure that those things are looked at specifically. Second thing is, as far as savings, adding that in there, we're talking about $3.2 million. This is from a $400,000 contract to a $3.2 million. If you ask residents that suffered in 2016, do they want to support more studies? I can tell you the answer is no, but it's H no. And that's because no projects have been done since 2016. We have not turned dirt on any of those. No projects have come out of that. So any savings we can do here tonight and put towards projects that actually turn dirt, I think sends two messages. Number one is that we're being conservative and we're looking at what we can do to save money for the consistency for the taxpayer. And second thing is actual projects to keep water out of people's homes. And that's where we can utilize these savings. As far as the complete program, adding that extra 200,000. I mean, we have $200 million in projects that me and Ron worked on submitting to the governor, and we're going to get a lot of funding through the $1.2 billion. That's irregardless of a master plan. Is even though I am in favor of a master plan, and so it's not that I'm not. But what I would like for board members to look at is savings, and savings we can actually turn over to projects that turn dirt and keep out of water, people's out of water. And that is item task order number 1, project management. I mean, you're talking about kickoff meeting notes, project work plan schedule, meeting minutes of each meeting, progress reports. I mean, we should be doing this, and I think that you see, as we are giving presentation after presentation after presentation about data-driven administration, we're going to get there in this drainage department. We're going to do monthly reports, better reports, more work schedules, more funding and what's going towards these, the stages of each. And I know that I talked to Councilman Ragus back, and that is super important to him to know where these projects are, the funding. I know that we can do that. We have the staff capable of doing that. As far as item 6, staff-wise, we're capable of doing about 60% of that. Some of the other part is modeling and things like that. There's possible monies to be saved there, but certainly in item 1, that's $319,000 in savings. The 200 additional thousand is knocked out. So I mean, you know, we can study everything to death. And if we don't have a balance here between studying and actual project to turn dirt, and this is a tool, a master plan and a modeling. These are just tools we have that we use. They don't save people. They don't. The projects that actually turn dirt save people. And the people of 2016 deserve that. They deserve projects that turn dirt. And it needs to be a balance. I'm not saying all things bad, it's not. And there's a lot of great data-driven stuff in here. Good stuff that we can certainly use. But, you know, we've done data stuff before, and we had a hard drive turned over 10 terabytes, didn't know what to do with it, nothing. And those are studies, and those are tools, and we couldn't do anything with it. Nothing. Matter of fact, we had to have a professional firm tell us what was on it. And so with that gap analysis being done now, which February 22nd is the day from which that should be concluded. So what I'm asking is let's have a balance here. Let's move forward with something on this project, but let's consider savings where we can save them. And it's going to be up to the administration to ensure that when these tasks are issued, that we're getting the products that the citizens deserve. There's no doubt in that, and we plan to do that. And so there's some good stuff in here. but there's also some savings in here that we can use those savings to turn dirt to save people's homes. And that's what I'm asking the board members to look at and consider. Thank you, Chair.
Sure. We're still in discussion. Any other discussion? Mr. Aaron?
Yes, I'd like, if we could have Melissa and Brian kind of expand a little bit about what this includes, just to the point, I don't want to say rebuttal, what Mr. President said. I think there were some things that may have been misunderstood.
So there was a lot said. Let me try to cover all of it. So in terms of the proposal, the project management, yes, it's the meetings, it's the monthly reviews, it's the work plan, it's the schedule, but it's also a lot of day-to-day internal coordination with the internal and external team members, making sure all the different tasks are going on, as they're supposed to, coordinating that work, making changes in staffing, budget adjustments internally, et cetera. So there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes that's not necessarily reflected in that scope. It's just general project management related tasks. And then in the floodplain management plan part, we put in the data or the meetings and coordination. And what that is, we intended to have a steering committee, which will be a number of people within the parish, as well as potentially some outside a parish administration, as well as members of our team, to meet monthly to go over how the project is going along. And usually we prepare a little presentation summary of where we are with the project, the status, and usually focus on a few items that we want to discuss with the steering committee to make sure they understand where it's going and that they get buy-in, because the steering committee is the one that's going to help drive the project and make sure we're all going along on the same path and an understanding. So a lot of that was included within the floodplain management document. So I hope that answered those two questions, but I want to touch on also what the other
development
issues that the president brought up. So in terms of developing projects, most of this budget is focused on doing that. Task 2 to collect the data, Task 4 to do your flood hazard assessment, which utilizes that data input into models to be able to say where your flooding problems are, what the extent, what the depth, and what the impacts are. And then the identify problems and develop risk mitigation strategies are where we then come up with all those projects and those solutions. So that is where you're still going to get your list of projects and a summary of what they are and how much they cost. What we're saying we're not doing is then taking that list of projects and working with the parish and coming up with a funding strategy and prioritizing projects over a length of time. That can be done with this or separately, but I'm saying you still will get your projects and a listing of what those projects will be. So you'll still have that documentation to support them. And in terms of data that's already been provided, I have to respectfully disagree that a lot of that information that we have already done has been utilized for projects moving forward. The backflow prevention project on the Marvin Road pump station was a result of the modeling and previous work we did. The Marvin Road levee system work that we did has led to the hazard mitigation grant program application for that work. And as I understand, that's been approved, but not officially received the notification, or as far as I know. There were other projects that were recommended moving forward. Again, the Laurel Ridge Levee project, that's one that's been out there for a while. Included that, the existing Laurel Ridge Levee project, we included that with the Marvin Road levee system. And we came up with some other projects too that are a little higher profile that are still, I think they're in development, and people have been looking at those ones. So, and there's others that we recommended that just haven't been acted on. So I just want to say that there is work that has been done and that has led to projects. And the hard drive, I have provided multiple times a very, very detailed summary of what is on that hard drive, what each of the files are, and models, survey data, projects, reports, all of it is there, cost estimates, etc.
And Melissa, one other point that you might want to touch on is with respect to the models going down to being able to model development.
Yes, 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 those models will be able to be utilized to evaluate development. Now, we're not necessarily doing that specifically for the plan, though we will be looking at that in terms of how those do react to developments to help inform decisions going forward in terms of policy and how your development policies are working. But the end result, those models will be able to be utilized to evaluate specific development.
And that was done at the request of Jerome and the planning department in order to have the tool and the utility to be able to utilize the models to then model future developments.
Correct.
once they're brought online or proposed.
All right, we're still in discussion. You finished, Ms. Kennedy?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. President?
Thank you. Again, that was a lot of information, so go back over it. So as far as the meeting, I think it's imperative to have our drainage department do those meetings and host those. We take minutes. We can obviously do that, and that's something we normally do with drainage meetings. But also, we need to up our game. This is a discussion I've been having with Ron Salvoir for countless times on talking about bringing the data-driven concept that we've had worked in Fleet and other ones back into the drainage department and making that into the monthly meetings. Again, it's item one is something that we can handle and do, or you can just pay a firm to do it, but it's some savings there. You know, we had experts look at the hard drive and even those experts said that it was very difficult to understand. It was just a lot of information and that it wasn't in this user manual and completely understandable. Nonetheless, that is, there's no one that understands where the drainage problems are better than our staff and this administration and the councilman on this. You can't pull someone from an out of parish firm and tell them to come tell us where our flooding problems are. We know where they're at. Okay, we get the calls. We have the residents. They complain to us, and that's how we know where they are. And there's countless ones that are out there that are not being addressed because we don't focus in on those projects, and there must be a balance there. And so, you know, in following that, there's no one that's going to hold consultants more accountable. And I'm going to make this statement, and I'm going to say it again because I want to make sure it's clear. There is no one that was going to hold consultants more accountable than this administration in doing and holding them and their feet to the fire, in doing what they say they're going to do, as well as shooting for savings where we can get it. No one, no consultant firm. You can't pay a firm to be more attentive to paying attention to where we can save money in this administration. It's factual. You can write that in stone if you'd like. It's true. And BKI, I was talking to BKI right after the flood of 2016 about the surge protection, okay, on the Marvin Brook Pumping Station. So this ain't the only firm that's looked at the surge protection or came up with ideas of surge protection. So that's been looked at by many, many, many firms. And I had that discussion with BKI directly after the 2016 flood. So this has been in works for a long time. It's been a attention. When we had the photo of the water circulating around the Marvin Brook Pumping Station, it was obvious then that we needed surge protection. So again, just consider. If you don't want to move forward, it's okay. Administration will adjust accordingly. But there's savings to be had here, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. Any other discussion? Mr. Ogeron?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. President, thank you for doing what you can to help save money and trying to get some shovel-ready jobs out there for us. I guess the big question I have, and I've asked this of you in the past, and I've asked this of some of the proponents of HNTB, with the savings that you're proposing, if we were to disregard this $200,000 that Mr. Waller is trying to add to the contract here, what shovel-ready jobs could we get started on that would really help save property as opposed to projecting property in the future?
Yeah, Mr. President.
Yeah, we have quite a few. We got to ensure that we have money for the Sorrento surge protection is huge. We're going to have match money for that. That would be nice to be able to take this savings that's going to go ahead and possibly levy off our southern part of our parish, which is a gravity drained area. The benefit is tremendous to a massive area. You're talking about Dara, you're talking about Pelican Point, you're talking about Pelican Crossing, all of Sorrento. So this is a project that's not funded at this time. So any savings would be able to be put directly into that project. That project, no doubt, will save people's homes. I hate it when I had to witness the big army truck going into Astroland and pulling those people out of their homes because they couldn't get out. We've done nothing to prevent that from happening again. Nothing. And so here's a project that we can need match money on and to do exactly that. And so there's quite a few. Thanks.
You finished, Mr. Cora? Mr. Michael?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have to agree with Councilman Ogeron. I do believe that if we could save that $200,000 and put those towards shovel-ready programs, I think that would be a great asset for our parish and our citizens as well. I do have a question for HNTB real quick. For task order number 1, I believe Melissa, and please let me know if I misunderstood, but it seems like you said we were going to be spending that money to make sure that all the follow-up and make sure all the tasks are being done in the correct order. Would that not fall into the other tasks to making sure that if we're hiring out, CSRS and CE Hydro to do these other jobs as well as you guys, wouldn't that fall in like the follow-up and making sure they're doing their job? Wouldn't that fall into those categories? And tasks 2, 3, 5, and 6? I'll even give you 6.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Absolutely. So task order 1, whenever you went over it after the parish president brought it up, you said that task order 1 is going to be kind of like the follow-up of these projects to make sure that these other companies are doing their job correctly. But shouldn't that kind of just fall under the other 4 or 5 tasks involved in this contract? Like when we're doing data collection, acquisition, and design criteria methodology, like shouldn't the follow-up be in those? Like we shouldn't have to pay an additional $300,000 just to make sure other companies are doing their tasks correctly, right?
Well, there is a little bit in there, but those tasks are really mostly, those are the detailed requirements for the others to do those tasks. In other words, the modeling, we've got a whole group of people doing modeling internally, HNTB staff, CE Hydro, and CSRS. So there's still, a lot of management sub-consultants overall, but they'll be doing those detailed tasks and they'll be reporting back. And they're part of that project management. When we have monthly meetings, they report back on the progress. We go over all the items, where everybody is, et cetera. So so some of their time is included in that task as well. But the specific tasks are geared for scopes specifically to do those items, such as CSR is going to be doing the survey. They'll be handling the survey work and doing all that themselves, but then they'll be reporting back and we'll coordinate on, the progress and the status. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, just want to make sure I'm clear. So the tasks 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 is for them to do the work, but not to submit the work back to y'all?
No, they'll still submit the work back. Okay. Absolutely. But we'll be having coordination meetings throughout the project to discuss each specific task and where we are and what the status is. No, everyone, there's a very defined list of deliverables that will come out of the work.
Yeah, and I'm familiar. I mean, I'm obviously vice chair on transportation. I've seen what you guys do in those meetings, and I understand that. I just was, whenever the wording just kind of came out, it kind of threw me off for a second. I just wanted to get some clarification on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Corey.
Thank you again, sir. This question's over for our friends at HNTB. And it's a question as a citizen, when I was sitting back just watching these meetings and not actually having to participate in them, I always wanted to know where my tax dollars were being spent. I guess I'm going to ask this. I mean, obviously in this 2.6 or $2.8 million range, there's a there's a profit margin for HNTB to oversee some of these subcontractors getting work done. Do you guys have a fixed figure as far as how much that's going to be, and just how much you guys are going to, or how much we're going to be paying you guys to make sure other contractors are doing their jobs?
Yeah, in our original contract on this one, we had a 5% markup on the subconsultant work, and that is reflected actually in the project management fee.
Okay, so 5% of the
their
3 million, or
work.
5% of what number?
No, 5% of the work that they will be contracted to do.
And how much is that per se, I guess?
About 1.3 million.
About 1.3 million?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a roughly $65,000 for you guys to speak to your subcontractors. That's on top of the rest of the profit that you guys make. I guess what I'm asking is here. We all remember 2016. We all remember the tragedy. We all remember the millions of dollars these folks lost on their property. And I think I'm echoing President Quintmore's concerns here. At some point, we've got to ask folks, are you going to help us help our neighbors? And, I mean, that $65,000, that goes a long way to helping us do other projects around here. Can we, can you guys do the work that Mr. Lawler's asking you to do within the 2.67 million that's originally placed in front of us?
Right now, I don't have it in the scope that way, so I don't have it budgeted. There are different people that I need to bring on board that do some of that work. And
Sure.
Since we took that work out, it's not included. We have specialties within the company that do that kind of funding and financing part of the work. So no, we took that out. And then part of that work will require coordination with the parish, because there will be projects that we will recommend based on the technical merit. And then there's the funding piece that comes in that the parish is going to have to weigh in on how that will be spread out over time and how to apply to which projects. So there's a process that goes with that, a prioritization process of taking those technically recommended projects, funding, and then distributing how we want to do those over time.
So would HNTB be adverse to going back to the original scope of the original motion on the table, the 2.67 million? Would you guys be adverse to that?
I mean, in terms of the scope for the 2.6 million, but without the 20-year CIP and doing that later, I mean,
yes.
Yeah, I mean, we have no issue with that, Mr. Ogeron. I mean, that work will certainly come by timeline, by schedule, it comes later. But again, that's obviously not a decision for me to make here. I'm not a voting member of your body. So the one thing also I would say, Mr. Ogeron, about the management and the 10, the 5% was historically when projects of this nature have large subconsultants, many clients allow for a 10% markup on subs. And with other clients here in Baton Rouge, actually even with Ascension on the Move Ascension program, there is that 10% markup, and you all grant that for that risk that we take overseeing those sub-consultants. But when we went back, per the direction from the last meeting, and were asked to try to trim down and to recognize savings, we took that down to 5%, in order to achieve kind of the collective goal of getting to a number that everyone, you all, as well as the parish president, were comfortable with. And so that's where we thought we were this evening.
My friend, thank you for that. We had talked about that earlier, and I'm glad you were able to explain that to me and to the public as well. So I appreciate that information. But no, and I also appreciate the fact that you guys clarified that we could revisit that additional 200,000 at a later date. So I do appreciate that also. Thank you much.
Yeah, well, look, we're here. We serve at your pleasure, so we don't have the opportunity to vote.
No problem. Appreciate that, Mr. Aaron.
Yeah, I just want to bring up real quick, thinking about what Corey was saying. When you build a house, sometimes you have to have somebody ensuring that all the subcontractors are working in coordination. It's especially important when you have modeling. If the models don't match up, the parish doesn't want to bear that responsibility of having paid millions of dollars for models that can't coordinate. And that's part of what we're paying here, is to have somebody else liable, as I know you'll understand, but have the responsibility and the accountability for one person. We have one contact point. If the models don't work, we don't bear that cost. We don't bear that responsibility. We're paying somebody else to bear that liability. I'm going to call a question on the issue, and let's get this vote over with, please.
Sure. We finished with discussion. We have a substitute motion by Mr. Aaron, second by Ms. Terry, for the 2.8 million with, Mr. Secretary, we'll go ahead and vote on the substitute motions first.
Roll call. Commissioner Robert,
No.
Commissioner Turner,
Yes.
Commissioner Orgeron,
No.
Commissioner Melanson,
No.
Commissioner Lawler,
Yes.
Commissioner Cazzo,
Yes.
Commissioner Wagisback,
Yes.
Commissioner Cagnolati,
Yes.
Commissioner Mason,
No.
and Chairman Lambert.
No.
It's tied 5-5. 5 yeas and 5 nays.
Okay, it fails, and we'll go to the original motion of the 2.67. Do I have any opposition? Any discussion? Not, motion passed. All right, with that, we're gonna move on to B, approval to advertise for bids for fish value. Mr. Ron?
Thank you, Chairman. The staff and GSA and Pontchartrain Levee District representatives met earlier last week, and we reviewed a 90% design set of plans, and we're able to give comments and dialogue back and forth. So we're very excited in the fact that we're moving towards bidding. Pontchartrain Levee District is going to take the same course of action with their board as we're in a cooperative endeavor with this project. So we're getting the processes in place taken care of, and so this is the formality that we need from you guys to vote on. And in that way, when the project is ready to bid, we could move forward with that process, which is expected possibly at the end of March. We're hopeful to have this thing advertised and ready to start turning out at the Bluff Swamp area.
I'm thrilled to make a motion to approve.
Moved by Ms. Terry, second by Mr. Johnny. Any discussion? Any opposition? None. Motion passed. Go on to C. This is an approval for the Shadows at Manchac subdivision. Ron?
Yes, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, I have a couple of slides I'd like to walk through with you guys to kind of give you guys a better understanding of, what this entails. So first off, we're dealing with Shadows of Manchac subdivision. You can go to the next slide, John. This is located out in Prairieville off of Highway 42. You go into McCrory Road, and then you take the branch of McCrory 2, and this subdivision is located at that point. If you look at the slide, you notice the highlighted areas to the right. Those are the drainage retention ponds. There's a series of 4 altogether that connect, and they're supposedly dry retention is what the call out is on the plat. You'll see in some later slides the current condition of them, but that's where all the streets of the subdivision drain into those ponds, and then they go out towards north to that bayou you see in blue, Cotton Bayou. So go to the next slide. Here is the actual drainage storm layout design of the pond. In the first map, you'll see the highlighted areas, the track that we're talking about is track CA1. And basically kind of in that plan, you'll see the different, I know it's hard to see on the slide, but there's 4 distinct different tiers of ponds that ultimately outflow into the Cotton Bayou. Go to the next slide, please. And this is a continuation. This is such a long distance there that it's 2 plan profiles that marry together. So you're looking at roughly about 1,000 yards or so of pond. It's a pretty significant area that we're referring to here. Next slide, please. So this is their concern, and I will say right off the bat that this was in a significant rainfall event, but you can see that these subdivision developments have layers of protection within them. So I know that when you first see this photo, it's pretty intense, which it really is, but the design here was functioning as their line of defense. The pond is your first line of defense, and then the overtopping of the weirs and the swelling out of the pond is your first layer of protection, but your secondary is your streets to flood. And the last thing to go would be a structure. So in this particular event, I don't have the exact criteria, but there were other subdivisions within Prairieville that had the same challenges within this event. So I know as extreme as it seems, the design kept water out of people's homes within that subdivision in this particular event. But the HOA has, as you can see, some concerns. I would certainly agree that it's concerning to see a photo of this magnitude. So next slide, please. So this is the current condition of what we call in the main pond, or the bulk of the distance of the 1,000 yards or so. As you can see, it's obviously not dry, but I will give kudos out to the HOA of Shadows at Manchac. They have been mowing and keeping these pond areas up by performing vegetation management on them. They apparently have been having to use some amphibious type machinery to get in here to actually mow this because it's really boggy. And I think that's some of what their concerns are, is they're doing the maintenance that they can, but the current conditions of the elevations of the ponds, they stay wet. So go to the next slide, please. And right where I was just standing when I took those photos, I was standing on the mowed grass at the top of the picture here, facing back. And you can see the day I went out, there's some pipes or culverts right there that allow the main pond to then start spilling into the different tiers to the outfall. And you can see that these pipes are completely blocked with the vegetative mowing debris on the control pipe. So go to the next slide, please. So after I inspected that, I removed all the debris from the pipes. I wanted to make note there's a little damage to the one on the left, but you can see the pipes really other than the grass mowing vegetative debris, they're pretty much open and not necessarily any silt in front of them, but they could be very much impacted by simple debris caught on the pipe. So it's very important that as well as they're doing a good job of vegetation, the pipes open and ensuring that they are almost more critical than the overall pond being. That was just one point. The next slide, please. So as I was telling you guys, it's about 3 other tiers below the main pond, the width of the photo that you see. And what you're looking at is the last pond. Towards that wood fence in the top of the photo is the outfall pipes that go into the Cotton Bayou. Here is one of the riprap weirs that go across the center of the different tiers of ponds. And you can see off to the right of that riprap there that the water has sort of found its own way around this weir, and it's pretty much bypassed it, and it's caused a washout on the one side of this particular weir here. So another thing to note is you can almost tell where the machinery is passed in the water down there to mow this and keep it maintained. So it's same conditions, it's really boggy, and it's very challenging for an HOA here to maintain this. Let's go to the next slide, please, John. So they're requesting us, the Drainage District, to look at their current condition of their pond and have requested that we, the Drainage District, go into there and do some work. One thing is we cannot just go on private property. I alluded to the tract of CA, I think it was 2, is a private tract of land. That is owned by the HOA. It's the common area of the subdivision. So it's very important to note that we can't just go out there and go perform maintenance. We don't have connectivity to the pond itself, but they do have a drainage servitude that is called out on the map. It goes through the center of the pond. So they're asking us to go in that servitude and do some maintenance. In that request, it's not the norm for the Drainage District to receive a request to go do work within a pond of a subdivision. So we felt the right thing to do would be to bring this guy to you guys and explain the situation to you and present all the facts to you and see what you guys would want us to come back and recommend on this. Regardless to any vote or direction you may give, there's still a few facts to be gathered before we would, I feel, commit to any work. But one is the thing that stands out is we cannot work on private property. So this is from legal. They say any and all work shall be limited within the areas shown on the plat at servitude. Work outside the servitude is the responsibility of the HOA. Before work is done, we will have to consult with an engineer to determine the best way for us to perform and maintain the legally dedicated servitude. And also a little bit of elaboration more on that is to any proposed work, what does that do to the current design of this drainage plan? There's a proposal of removing some weirs and different things in there when we would possibly go in and clean this out. So an engineer we want them to give us, an overview of what is proposed, what are we trying to fix, and will any work that we do change the current situations that they have concerns with. In addition to that, number 4, the HOA must sign a hold harmless for any work to be done within the servitude according to the engineering plan that may be developed by a consultant. The HOA also must provide servitudes on their property to allow us access with the equipment to get to the servitude for maintenance. And also on the lower 3 tiers of the pond, we possibly would not be able to get in it. We'd probably have to do it from the top bank if we did any work. They would have to give us a hold harmless as to any and all things related to the current project proposed and future, maintenance of the slopes of the ponds. In that plan that you saw in the first two slides there, it definitely calls out that those ponds, basins, structures, and all drainage basins are the responsibility of the HOA for maintenance. So I know that was a lot of information in a short amount of time, but that's sort of the facts that are kind of at the table here with this request. And this actually came to us through Councilman Aaron. So that's sort of where we are with this, and we open up for any comments and whatever questions you guys may have.
Mr. Core.
Ron, thanks for wanting to help the citizens. I too have some concerns over the legal parameters, and I see Mr. Barrington is still present. O'Neill, have you done any sort of an analysis of this to make sure that we're going to, these actions will keep the parish a hold harmless?
Yes, they're going to do a hold harmless, and we're only going to work on the servitude. We're not doing any other work on any ponds. That's the homeowner's responsibility. There just appears to be some problems with our servitude that goes through it, has caused some clogging and everything. So we're just like we would any other ditch, we're going to clean out our servitude, but they're going to give us a hold harmless on the work we do for them.
Okay, I guess the question I have then is when we have it listed as HOA, is that the homeowners association that's going to give us the hold harmless, or is it going to be each of the residences in that subdivision?
Because that's the person responsible. Right. They're responsible for that pond. It's going to be the HOA is going to have to give us the hold harmless.
Okay, but what if our actions can later be shown to cause more damage rather than less damage? Are we going to also get those homeowners to issue us a hold harmless?
No, I think the HOA, as the owner of the pond, is the proper person on this. They own those ponds, and we're not doing all we're doing is cleaning out our servitude. That's what we're limiting our work to doing, is cleaning out our servitude. And essentially, the servitude the drainage area of the servitude has been filled in. So we're just cleaning out just like we would any other canal.
Okay, but
we're not going beyond the scope of doing that. Mr. Joe?
I'm good. My main question was the scope of work.
Sure. Mr. President?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this is a situation where the design over all this attention is going to end up costing the parish money. This is why it's so important for us to pay attention to how these subdivisions are on up, developing the engineering on it, because it ends up costing us. Same thing with roads and these subdivisions. So it's very important to consider this in the future on how we're going to do it in this particular case. One of the possible solutions is to go ahead and deepen within the 30-foot, therefore allowing water to seep into that area within the servitude, allowing the outer banks to dry, and then that allows them to do a little bit more mowing maintenance and things like that in the drier periods instead of the entire bottom staying boggy, which prevents them from doing maintenance. As you can see in the photos, as they cut it, what happens is all the dead grass and vegetations come to the three culverts, block up. There probably needs to be some solutions there, but I'd like an engineer to look at it. We'll proceed any further to ensure that when we fix it, or if we fix it, we do it on one time, the first time only, to provide a greater solution for the residents of this particular subdivision.
Mr. Chase.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I do support going in here and our servitude is dedicated to us as our responsibility. These people look like they got a pretty good hardship going on. Culverts, digging out our servitude, all of that. I'm a vent for like 20 seconds. I'm gonna try not to be long-winded here, but I think this is a huge failure that we have within our system. This subdivision was built and rigorous engineering and reviews and all of this stuff. and obviously the system's not working. We need to, as a full council, have something in place to where once this neighborhood is done, these people move in, that there are some investigations afterwards to ensure that it's doing what the engineering said it was going to do. I just feel like there's a lot of these instances going on throughout the parish, and look, I'm willing to bet a large percent of the people that when they bought that house in that neighborhood had no idea that they would personally have to take care of these detention ponds for the rest of their life. So I do support going in here and helping these people out within our servitude or legal responsibility. Thank you.
Mr. Aaron?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, these people are suffering a lot from this. I know people who have missed work because they couldn't get out. It's not even on every big rain. Even smaller rains have caused problems, backing up into the streets where people can't leave their homes to get to work, which is problematic. I certainly don't want to do any work on private property or outside of our servitude, but being that it's our servitude, I believe that we owe these people a duty to maintain what is ours. Thank you.
All right, so you offer that as a motion with engineering and staying in the servitude?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
And second by Mr. Michael. Any more discussion? Any opposition? Not, motion passed. Okay, we're gonna move on. D is discussion of a safety guardrail or possibly a cable. Miss Liz, is Mr. Chief LeBlanc still there?
Yes, sir.
And first telling me I owe him big, so tell him thank you for sticking with us. Look, I've called on the president, a vice chair, quite a few people, and the people that are on the front line that's dealing with these cars going in, it doesn't matter if it's New River, Stringer Bridge, it's children that they're dealing with, and this is starting to hit home. I'm trying to get everybody together here. We're going to move as a drainage board or transportation on some type of protection to catch vehicles before they get into these waterways. I invited Mr. LeBlanc to come because, I know his department's dealing with it. Sorrento, quite a few other ones. I'm going to turn it over to you, Chief, and just kind of add anything.
Yeah, so can you hear me?
Sure.
Can you hear me? So look, I'm coming here tonight basically to give you some stats of what we've been dealing with over the last couple of years. I've only went back 9 years, but so just so you'll know, on Stringer Bridge Road, we've had 3 fatalities. And on 429, we've also had 3 fatalities. So that's 6 fatalities just in Sanamon in the last 9 years. And going back and looking at the reports, we've also pulled 5 other people out of the waterways in Sanamon that actually lived in the last 9 years. So if you remember back in 2012 when we had that horrific incident where those young children died, we came back and we put some lights up, some flashing lights up on Stringer Bridge Road. I would like to note that ever since those flashing lights have been up on Stringer Bridge Road, we haven't had any more incidents on Stringer Bridge. So I do have some concerns about, how we can, move forward on railings and cables and stuff like that in our parish. It's not just happening in Sanamon, it's happening everywhere. And I just, I'd also, like to understand if it's talking to our DPW director. Is it the roads? Is it the ditches? Is it the drivers? We need to understand what the actual root cause analysis is here on what's causing these incidents. So I'm bringing you just some stats tonight, Mr. Chairman, on what we've been facing. I got some ideas, but I think the DPW chairman, director also has some ideas.
Well, we'll open it up for discussion. Past President or Ron, y'all want to go first?
Yeah, Dipsy, if you don't mind, kind of see I'm out of view here a little bit. I had called the state earlier, Dipsy, and I talked with Aaron Elisar about this particular incident. And, you know, first and foremost, sympathy to all the families involved with all of these incidents. As far as DOTD is concerned, they're pretty much, their protective measures are in place as to what they will do right now. Anything further than the limits of what's currently out there, they will take requests. Like if the Drainage District or the Transportation Committee would like to move forward with, say, putting up a line of cables along a channel that parallels a through highway, they will take those requests, but they will take it and tell you what the standards are, what you have to abide by as an entity, and then you would then have to take on the maintenance responsibilities and any liability along with those, dealing with the DOT's right-of-ways. So I think that would be where the next step would go if a board or a committee would wish to submit a request. Most of these places are along state highways, and that would be the avenue to get that started. And the ones that would maybe be on parish highways in different scenarios, I think we would need to make start with a standard that would probably mimic what DOT's requirements would be. So that would probably be the start of finding out what all the facts would be and what we would be facing as developing policy and procedures and maintenance and budgets to maintain all of these different things that may be implemented as a result. That's what I found out today on the DOTD's point of view of it.
Sure. Past President.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Obviously, in support of anything that saves lives, the only thing that I would ask this board to look at is one, budget, and second is liability. If the state's not willing to accept liabilities of these things, we got a lot of attorneys on this board here. We need to look at what liability exists if we build it and we're responsible for it. So, attorney, but certainly needs to be looked at from that standpoint. But obviously, this is a problem. You know, we need to look at the safety parameters involved in here and look into what we can do. But I think those two items need to be looked at. Thank you, Chair.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Mr. Chase.
Yeah. So what about potentially installing them in our servitude along the canal banks, you know, along the bayous? I mean, we have servitude along there, like a good example, you know, where the incident happened 2 weeks ago, you know, right here, half mile down the road, is actually in the canal. You know, I mean, that truck was in our servitude, right? I mean, if this was something we want to move forward to, say, on these high traffic areas where the data supports it, you know, we'll have 100 feet, you know, in the curve on Stringer Bridge or like on Beco, you know, where we cross New River right there, you know, we could put a 30-foot, you know, band on each side inside of our servitude on the canal bank. I don't know if that helps a liability issue or anything like that, but just kind of spitballing ideas, because it seems to be, you know, something that happens a lot more than, you know, than we care. And I am glad we're at least having the conversation. So thank you, Chair.
Sure. Mr. Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Chief, for providing that information for us and bringing attention to the whole parish. I mean, you know, we've all seen everything, and, you know, I follow you in the fire department on Facebook, so I know you guys are providing updates all the time. So thank you very much for that service. I mean, so many of our roads in this parish do run alongside of some kind of a waterway. So if we could, kind of going forward, I'm absolutely for this. I want to make that absolutely clear. If we could maybe try to find like some of the most impacted roads that have had like the majority of these and try to prioritize those. I would also love to know what kind of budgeting this is going to cost. Like if we can get some preliminary numbers, because I've tried to just look in Civic Clerk and I couldn't find anything on it. So I would just like a lot more information. But I'm all for this by any stretch. Whatever you need from us, I'll be glad to help however I can. Thank you very much.
Sure. Mr. Joe?
I too will support this, obviously with the safety that this could provide. Now, I feel just from what I see and on the side of the interstate and whatnot, they install a lot of these cables rather than actually using your non-giving services. I feel like that would probably knock down a lot of the liability because you're not knocking cars back into oncoming traffic so much. But my question would be, what type of safety benefits we would have from those and what the cost differences would be. But yeah, I'm definitely for moving toward this parish.
Mr. John?
Yeah, I think point's well made. I support it as well. I think Ron made an excellent point earlier that a lot of our roads, and James did as well, they're state highways. So, we would, I think at best, we would be making a strong request of DOTD to install these types of cables or, barriers. So I just think rather than, if we do find an area that's troublesome, it's on a state highway, I think a path forward might be to, send a letter to parish president and then a letter from the Ascension Parish Council with all of our signatures on there, to strongly recommend that they take action and put up a safety barrier that would potentially save lives. That's just my thoughts. Thank you.
All right. Appreciate all the great information. Got your work cut out, President. And Ron, see what we could do to, I know we were still working on that agreement with the with DOTD. So this might be something that, we can put in place also. And Chief, thank you for waiting and getting all of your information, and also, tell the sheriff thank you for everything what he's doing. But I think if we lose another one to this, it's hitting home. So let's get something quick, and let's get something to show. I'd love to, get something up there to protect and save these little ones. Mr. Chase?
Now, just before we end, I want to throw one comment to Chief that he, next time he needs to keep the Cinema blazer on because that's Travis's favorite colors. He loves the black and gold.
Yeah.
Hey, I took it up because I didn't want to show favoritism to one area.
Yeah.
Smart move, Chief. Smart move.
Appreciate y'all. Any other discussion?
Yeah,
Mr.
Chair.
Ron? Yeah.
Real quick, you brought it up, so I'm gonna go ahead and make a comment. I forgot earlier to mention the CEA with the state for the other agreement that we brought before you a couple months back. We will be bringing that in March. They did get back to us with a cooperative endeavor agreement proposed. I didn't get it till Thursday. Didn't have enough time for legal to vet it and take a time to thoroughly review that. So in March, we hope to have that back as well.
All right. With that being said, we'll adjourn by Mr. Corey, second by Mr. John. Thank y'all for all y'all help.